The following program is hosted by a boomer. Mistakes may occur that are beyond our control. Please do not think we are unaware of these technical errors. We are very aware, but we are still struggling with this process. We thought we had fixed the video error when there was just spelling mistakes and grammatical errors, but that just completely messed up the audio, and the tech support guy... Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I'm your host, Joe Neerman, a.k.a. Good Lawgic. I should get something out of the way before I get into the main topics of the evening. Let me just check and make sure you got a notification. That is wild. That's amazing. I'm so happy. Someone got a notification. All right, so a couple things I got to get out of the way. Just clear stuff off. Okay, football's coming. NFL. Okay, this is pretty much the last sport I'm left with. All right, I was a jock as a kid. I got old. I got fat. I got just not and disinterested in baseball. The only thing I have left in my life, really, the only sport-related thing I've left in my life is the NFL. That's it. I've been doing fantasy football since too embarrassing to admit. It's too embarrassing to admit. Okay, fine. Let's put it this way. I was doing fantasy football in my fourth season or so. One of the biggest trades someone made was when they traded away Emmitt Smith. Okay, that's how long I've been doing this. That's how long I've been doing this. A long time. So yeah, I know fantasy football. I have a league. It's being run through locals. If you're interested in signing up, I want to have a minimum of 10 people. You have to be a member of locals, and there's also an entry fee of $100 for the league. Okay? That's not negotiable. If I can get a minimum of 10 people and up to 12 people, myself included, so it's really 9 or 11. If I can get that minimum threshold, a minimum of 9 people sign up willing to commit to pay $100, I am going to be hosting a fantasy football league. We had a league last year. We had a lot of fun with it. We have like an online draft type of thing. It's a good time all around. So if you're interested in participating, I urge you to go over to locals at goodlogic.locals.com, sign up on the little thread I got there, little thread action I got going on there. For people who are interested in participating, the draft is probably going to be not Labor Day, then Sunday. I got to figure out what my other draft is. But it is a $100 entry fee. You do have to be paying member of locals, and yeah, that's basically the deal. So if you're interested, head on over there, sign on up. Signing up does not make you a member of the league. I want to be clear on this. There's no confusion. Once I see that we have enough people, so like I'm going to go on a first come first serve basis with a little preference given to those who participated last year and want to return. Last year we had, I think, a 6-team league, which was a very small league, and I was thoroughly dominant, pretty much from start to finish. So with one exception where Adrian just whipped me 1 week. I don't know what the heck happened there. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. If you're interested in that sort of thing, I urge you, come on over, sign on up, and we'll have a good time. I should tell you, there are a couple of unique features that I incorporate. I stress a little bit more about defenses that are actually good at stopping teams from gaining yards and getting points. So there's points. There's a lot more built in on the defense over there. And it's a snake draft. If you're unfamiliar with fantasy football, basically it goes, we designate an order. The order is not randomly selected. I actually came up with a novel theory which should be used in every snake draft across the country. And I came up with this 25 years ago. And that is that in the snake draft, to set the order, you auction your free agent money. So everyone starts off with like $100 in free agent money. You decide what portion of that you want to designate to buy yourself a better seed. And we have a little auction that happens before the draft. So this way you get to buy your spot. You don't like randomly get the number 1 seed. If you want the number 1 seed, you're probably gonna have to pay some serious cash for that. And then you're starting the season with the advantage of having number 1 seed, disadvantage that you have fewer free agent dollars than everyone else. And so on for the 2 seed, 3 seed, and basically whatever seed you want. You purchase, and those seeds obviously go cheaper. Though I'm probably confusing a whole bunch of you with this who don't know anything about fantasy football. I don't want to waste more time talking about it, but it is over on goodlogic.com. So I urge you, if you're interested in that sort of thing, to check it out. Come on over. Love to have you. And look, if I have enough for 2 leagues, if there's really a lot of interest, enough for 2 leagues, I might end up doing that. We'll see. But last year, I thought I was going to get 15 people easy, and ended up just working out the timing and the money. It was frustrating. Not going to kid you. I had fun once the league started, but setting it up was just a pain in the neck. All right. Where else were we? Oh, okay. Yeah. So I should probably get started with the show, right? We should probably start covering that sort of thing. Yeah, I am in the tunnel. I'm in the tunnel right now. The reason I have the tunnel background is because August has been a very slow month for me. Been a very slow month. So overhead, we had to start cutting back on overhead. I had to start peeling back. I couldn't have the whole lavish background behind me. It was the overhead was killing me. It was very, very destructive. So I'm back in the tunnels, hoarding my money so I can pay my bills. This is a much cheaper ambiance when you're in a tunnel. It's think about how much overhead I have here. What do I got? Food? Rat poison? That's it. All the mattresses I can want. Oh my God, the jokes write themselves. All right. So no New Jersey lawyer, federal firearms license, FFL ARC. Disappointing. No, that's not what I wouldn't be posting about that. I would just go out and get it. that would be that. Master Phillips hitting me. I didn't sign up the bell yet. Hold on, let me sign up the bell. Let me sign up the bell before I do this. Whoops. Master Phillips hitting me with 10. Count them, 10 new members of the following. I need members of the following. The following is dwindling. It's dwindling. You have to. It's so sad. It's so sad. You want to see what happened ever since? I'm going to pull up those members of the new members of the following, because I know you all want to know. But I got to start just by telling you just how sad this is. How how brutal August has been. August is like the dog days of August. Oh my God, this is like August finances for Good Logic are pretty much like RNC voting polls. It's just like, what the heck? What's happening? What the hell is happening here? Let me show you this, because you want to see what's something depressing. Look at this. Look at this. Look at it. Look at it. Look at it. Look at that. Look at that blue line there. That blue line. Telling me, oh yeah, Joe, you lost 400 members. 400 freaking members gone in the last 28 days. That's right. So if you're here, if you could like and subscribe, I'd be much obliged. Those of you who joined the following were brought in. So we need people to join the following just so they stick around. I don't know what's happening. I mean, I do know what's happening. It's YouTube. YouTube basically like whenever I have a growth, they come back at me and they're just like, they slap me around. I'm like, okay, I got it. So now I'm dealing with that whole thing. Who do we bring into the following here? Just so I can get this straight and not miss out. Okay, the following 10 people brought into the following courtesy of the king of recruitment, King, Lord and Master of recruitment, Master Phillips. He brought in Mama Rocks Old Drill Sergeant, Janelle Villegas, Robin Sage, Lori, Kay Stanford, Jonathan Sherrill, Endless 13, and Dread Clown, all of them gifted members of the following. I know most of you have been around the rodeo once or twice here in the following. Most of you in that list there are names I recognize and seen before. A couple of you I don't necessarily seen around so much. I just want to let you know the following is a group of people who are joined together for the purpose of enhancing our personal growth, recognizing that really our success in life is not where you start. It's really how far along the way you progress. So it's all about community and unity, leadership training skills. These are the essence of what the following is all about: community, unity, and leadership training. Oh, for sure. These are the things that'll help get you through life. So with that, I urge you, if you're not yet a member of the following, you probably want to join. Don't worry. It's not. It's just not. And then your number one pick is injured on game one. That could happen. That could happen. Joe can't pay his StreamYard sub back to tell. It's so true. It's been a brutal August. A brutal friggin' August. All right. Some of you may have heard about Matthew Perry. He was this actor in a show that was kind of big at one point, and then he died. He overdosed. I'm not making fun of his death, even though he was. I'm just not going to make fun of his death because I don't like making fun of the dead. But the matter of his death was that he overdosed. Now, apparently he struggled with addiction for probably more than half his life. And now folks are being charged with the death. And today, the indictments were unsealed. 5 defendants, including 2 doctors, charged in connection with actor Matthew Perry's fatal drug overdose last year. I'm not going through the whole indictment because no one wants that. But basically it boils down to a licensed physician and an alleged San Fernando Valley drug dealer were arrested today in connection with the death of actor Matthew Perry, who suffered a fatal ketamine overdose in October 23. In total, 5 defendants, including 2 doctors charged in this matter. That's scary. When I say scary, I mean assuming that they're actually good faith doctors, but I guess the DA doesn't really believe that they are. The defendants arrested today are charged on an 18-count superseding indictment returned on Wednesday with distributing ketamine to Perry during the final weeks of the actor's life. Jasveen Sangha, 41, a.k.a. the ketamine queen of North Hollywood. All right, maybe, I don't know. And Dr. Salvador Plasencia, 42, a.k.a. Dr. P of Santa Monica. This is a guy who I'm sure was living high on life. Pardon the pun. Didn't realize it. Then I realized it as soon as it came out. I was just thinking that if you're a drug dealer to the rich and famous, you're probably doing, situated in Southern California, you're probably living high on life. And I wasn't really thinking about the implications of that wording. Sangha and Plasencia are charged with 1 count of conspiracy to distribute ketamine. Sangha also is charged with 1 count of maintaining a drug-involved premises, 1 count of possession with intent to distribute methamphetamine, 1 count of possession with intent to distribute ketamine, and 5 counts of distribution of ketamine. Superseding indictment alleges that Sangha's distribution of ketamine on October 24, 2023 caused Perry's death. Plasencia is charged with 7 counts of distribution, 2 counts of altering and falsifying documents or records relating to the federal investigation. They're expected to be arraigned later today. I guess this was earlier today. The defendants cared more about profiting off Mr. Perry than caring for his well-being, said United States Attorney Martin Stroud. You wonder if, the victim was not Matthew Perry, if there would be 5 defendants here, because sadly, we have such a fentanyl crisis. We have all these different people who are dying. And what ends up happening is when the guy's a celebrity, a pretty left-leaning celebrity, when the guy's a celebrity who ODs, and look, it's definitely a tragedy. I'm not looking to diminish that. But suddenly his tragedy suddenly is front and center. And oh my gosh, let's start making the arrests of these people that everyone knew were dealing these drugs throughout Beverly Hills for God knows how long. So all of a sudden, it's the wrong victim. And now they're being charged. I'm not saying they shouldn't be punished in general. They should be. likely. I mean, look, I don't know anything about them. I never heard their names until I pulled this article open for you. I'm simply saying that assuming that these charges are accurate, which is a gross assumption because the police always lie, but assuming that there is some legitimacy to these claims, and in God truth, as we call it, meaning just actual reality, they were distributing all these drugs around. And the only time that there's any accountability is when the Vic is someone that everyone knows. But instead of Matthew Perry, it was Matthew Slabanka. No one here gets charged. I only know that because no one ever seems to get charged unless it's Matthew Perry. Drug dealers selling dangerous substances are gambling with other people's lives over greed. This case, along with many other prosecutions of drug dealers who cause deaths, send a clear message that we'll hold drug dealers accountable for the deaths they cause, so long as those deaths are people that the public has heard of. Part of my cynicism, but I'm sorry. It's like, oh wow, you're so virtuous. Now you're getting to make a famous. Now you're getting to get an arrest and get your name in the papers for arresting this person who distributed the drugs that enabled Matthew Perry to OD. Bringing these individuals to justice for their role in the untimely death of Mr. Perry required coordination, hard work by a number of people. And I want to thank LAPD detectives and our federal partners for their patience and dedication, said LAPD Chief Dominic Choi. As the boots on the ground in our communities on a daily basis, LAPD officers witness firsthand the harm that these narcotics can cause. So I'm pleased that our collective efforts have led to the arrest of these individuals. Look, assuming that they're genuinely distributing drugs, I guess that's a good thing. I guess I'm simply saying it's sad that it has to be a celebrity who dies in order for there to actually be justice. Today, we announced charges brought against the 5 individuals who together are responsible for the death of Matthew Perry. Who else did they kill? That's what I want to know. Like, how many other people died before Matthew Perry that you just didn't really bother? Because I find it very difficult to believe that Matthew Perry is the first person who, assuming that they are, these story drug dealers who have their own drug growing facilities, how many other people had to die? I guess maybe that gives meaning to Matthew Perry's life. I don't know. Do I sound cynical today? I'm actually in a good mood. But we allege each defendant played a key role in his death by falsely prescribing, selling, or injecting the ketamine that caused Matthew Perry's tragic death. Matthew Perry's journey began with unscrupulous doctors who abused their position of trust because they saw him as a payday to street dealers who gave him ketamine and unmarked vials. The 3 other defendants charged separately are Eric Fleming, 54, of Hawthorne, who pleaded guilty on August 8th to 1-count conspiracy to distribute and 1-count distribution of ketamine resulting in death. He admitted in court documents that he distributed ketamine that killed Perry. He further admitted to obtaining the ketamine from his source, Sangha, and to distributing 50 vials of ketamine to Perry's live-in personal assistant, Kenneth Iwamasa, who's the next person charged. Half of them were 4 days before Perry died. Kenneth Iwamasa conspired with Sangha, Fleming, and Placencia to illegally obtain ketamine and distribute to Perry. Iwamasa pleaded guilty on August 7th to 1-count of conspiracy to distribute ketamine causing death, admitted to repeatedly injecting Perry ketamine without medical training, including performing multiple injections on Perry. Dr. Mark Chavez of San Diego, a physician who has agreed to plead guilty to 1-count of conspiracy to distribute ketamine. Chavez admitted in his plea agreement to selling ketamine to Placencia, including ketamine that he had diverted from his former ketamine clinic. So he's basically stealing drugs and reselling them, repurposing them. All right. Well, there you go. So I guess that's something. What do we got going on here? Mary Coppola. 5. Count 5. That's the 5 good Lawgic membership. Who we got? Who we got in, Mary? Who'd you get? Who'd you give me? Who'd you bring to me? Mary? Thad the Man! Yesterday we had a call-in show. We did not hear from Thad the Man, but welcome to the following: Thad the Man, Lynn Britton, M. Ball. People don't know this about M. Ball, but M. Ball has basically been following this show kind of since I was in my 20s. I think I might be, that's just a guesstimate, but since I was in my 20s, he's been following this show. So Glad to see he finally got gifted a membership courtesy of Mary Coppola. Then you have Karate Cat Mom and Stephen Evans, another longtime follower. Welcome to the following. The following is not at all a cult. Type of cult. Oh, let's just get one thing clear here. I'm not the leader of the following. The following is just about community unity. It's personal growth. That's all. But there's no self-harm, no harming others. It's just like no Kool-Aid. There's none of that stuff. None of it. I can go on and on for days. Sometimes I have, but I'm not going to do that right now because we got stuff to do. If you're famous, they will search high and low for your drug dealer. If you die of OD in a car, homeless, no one needs to look, just another OD. Yep, that's my point. There's no clue. 2 years, Mr. Hellspawn. 2 years and still no Kool-Aid. But you're down in the tunnels with me. That's the key. You're down in the tunnels with me. I apologize, but I couldn't help but notice spelling out the opening card. Your humble servant knows this was probably by design. The opening card. What's the opening? Oh. I don't know what that means. The opening card, my intro? I'm a boomer. Stuff happens. All right. So I covered the Matthew Perry thing for you. I don't know if you saw, I dropped a vid earlier today. I'm curious if you guys got notifications about it. Did you get notifications? I don't know how to send notifications. I don't know how to get it to people's attention. I don't know how to do that. Apparently, not everyone sees it when I drop it. I don't know. Because I'll have more people watching me live than I will actually get views on a vid. I don't understand it. It was a pretty good little rant I dropped today over on YouTube. They got his personal assistant, probably pay guy crap wages and threaten to fire if he doesn't get his boss what he wants. Overwork guy. I agree with you. He probably, likely. We don't know the circumstance. Who knows? All right. So I dropped a vid. Excuse me. I dropped a vid about talking about the Secret Service failure. I'm going to go through this, which is why I'm going to go through it relatively quickly, just those of you who did not get a chance to see it. So Susan Crabtree reported that during Donald Trump visits to North Carolina yesterday, a woman's Secret Service special agent abandoned her post to breastfeed with no permission / warning to the event site agent, according to 3 sources in the Secret Service community. Just imagine what the hell is going through this woman's mind. Like, seriously, what the hell is going through her mind? Your agency is facing such intense scrutiny, specifically with respect to their efforts to protect Donald Trump. How lacking in self-awareness can someone possibly be to say, I'm going to bring my infant here and just start acting like a wet nurse when I'm supposed to be on duty? And I'm going to get someone lead me into like the main emergency office here, the designated office to handle emergencies. And that's where I'm just going to start doing my wet nurse duties. And I'm not going to tell anyone. So like on comms, it's going to be like, says we got a 5'8" male who's approaching you and hoping that you can just step out and do a quick interview of the male. Susan, you there? Susan. Like, what the hell's happening? What is happening? Like, what are you thinking? What the hell are you thinking? So you bring a kid, an infant, into this dangerous environment, which basically is saying, I don't think it's dangerous. I don't think it's a dangerous environment. I think this is a totally safe environment. My job is, God forbid, if there's some sort of crazy attack here, I'm supposed to jump in front of the president, and I'll just carry along my 6-month-old infant and we'll just jump together in front of the body of the president. But I mean, what the hell is happening? What are you thinking? And I understand not everyone is in his detail is like situated around him. I get that. I understand that. But I mean, just think of how this looks, and then to just go AWOL and be like, oh, I don't want anyone to know. I'll just be a quick 20 minutes here while I'm just, taking care of Timmy. And apparently she had 2 kids with her. I'm assuming it's 2 kids. I mean, look, they say that shortly before the motorcade arrival, I'm told 5 minutes beforehand, the site agent was getting ready for arrival. The site agent is the person in charge of the event. And they went to one final sweep of the walking route and found the agent breastfeeding the child in a room that's supposed to be set aside for important Secret Service official work. She's in the room with 2 other family members. I'm assuming one of them is the one she was nursing. That's what I'm assuming. So what? Is it like 2 minors? It probably wasn't it probably wasn't the dad. It probably wasn't the dad. I don't think it was. I don't. Just call me crazy. I'm assuming this is 2 minors that she's got there. And look, I understand that sometimes a babysitter drops out on you, and you can't, and you there's nothing else you can't go to work then. It's just like it's really simple. You can't go to work, or you find someone else who can watch them. But the idea that a Secret Service agent in charge of protecting Donald Trump, particularly in charge of protecting Donald Trump, given the fact that he is a former president, the current presidential nominee for the Republican Party, that there have been multiple threats on his life and 1 attempted assassination, and the entire world is scrutinizing your agency's screw up, and you start playing games saying, oh, I'm just going to, I'll bring my couple of kids down there and we'll act like it's a whole big freaking parade day. Like, oh, look at all the different people going by with their different signs, Timmy. Oh, wave to the crowd. What the hell's wrong with you? You're a freaking Secret Service agent. You're a Secret Service agent. And if you don't recognize that's a dangerous position, then you're a crappy caregiver to your own kid, that you put them in that situation. And if you're a crappy caregiver to your own kid, you're certainly not someone who's suitable to take care of protecting the president. You can't even protect your own infant. I don't understand what the hell's happening here. Aggravating. Maybe it's just me. Is that what it is? I need better titles and graphics in my vids. Need to have things. I got to tell you something. Here's the thing that tells me that you're mistaken. I have like 150 comments on it, and they're still not throwing it into the algorithm. 150 comments. You look at my videos here that I do here, there'll be like 12 comments, 15 comments. I urged people to comment, and they did. You guys did. You were great. Normally, and there's a whole bunch of likes there by percentage-wise based on views, that's the sort of thing that's supposed to get thrown into the algorithm. I had someone tell me that when they were searching for me, that they had to actually put in good logic all the way to the end, because I've gotten basically the same level of suppression from YouTube that Google gave to the Trump assassination attempts. That's the level of suppression I'm facing from YouTube today. It's gross. And that person is subbed up to me. And he's like, oh yeah, I gotta type in all the way. Good Lawgic. No, nothing yet. No suggestion. They have no idea what I'm looking for. They're subbed up to me. And type in good LAWGI, got nothing. So what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? I'm basically, I'm public enemy number 1 from YouTube's perspective. I'm a very, very dangerous person. Very dangerous. Stupid. So, yeah, if I have better tiles and graphics in my vids, people are liking the vids. Doesn't help. There's something strange to me about the juxtaposition of I'm feeding my baby. My job is to literally be a meat shield in a worst case scenario. Yeah. Somehow that doesn't really add up. It doesn't, right? Yeah, I have the same, like, it's a very weird juxtaposition. So what happens if you are a meat shield? What happens to your kid? It's just like, this is just not the right job. It's just not the right job. And I know this, a lot of people are going to say it sounds sexist. I'm telling you right now, I happen to agree. I happen to agree with this. They shouldn't be in the Secret Service. They shouldn't be. I'm sorry. First and foremost, if you're surrounding the president, you need to be as tall as the president. I mean, this is just, it's simple physics. The same way I'm not tall enough to be in the NBA, even if I retained sufficient athletic skill from my 20s, I'm not tall enough. I'm just not. Because you can't get the job done. You just can't. So now, I'm sorry. It's so stupid. He stands 6 feet tall, and you got a woman who's 5'4", who's supposed to be blocking his body. What the hell is she going to be doing? Is she going to be jumping up and down? I mean, what is happening here? That's very kind of you. Thank you. This is true. They ripped 400 from me. If you came in late, you missed when I was showing this. Look at this. I mean, they didn't. I know they ripped 1,000 subs from you overnight. I don't know what you did to them. I was there for that. Look at this. Look at this plane landing here. My channel growth over the last 28 days. Oh, yeah, we're just about to get under. Oh, look at this. I lost 2 subs since this show started. That's right. People are unsubbing. They're like, oh my God, I hate this show. I'm going to unsub right now. I was at 102, 440. Oh my God, the last 28 days. They're going screaming. They're running screaming in terror. Come on, Secret Service job, not a sales clerk. No offense. Where's the boss in charge? And I can't believe there's something in the policies, procedures, and responsibilities of an SS agent. No, they're not allowed to bring kids to work. I mean, that's what the article says. I don't know if I... Look at this thing. Look at this. Look at this crash and burn. It's like this is a plane landing. Like this is like the way I land my plane when all of a sudden I have this really massive bout of like I really need a bathroom now. I need a bathroom now. And it's like, all right, show's going along for 2.5 hours. So I'm like, okay, well, there you go. Don't eat lamb meat, don't eat some bugs, and Godspeed, out of here. That's basically that's what y'all seeing here. That's what y'all seeing. That's what y'all seeing there. Sad. I know you guys who are doing that. Thank you so much for bringing me under 102. It's very, very funny. It's just hilarious. God bless y'all. It's pathetic. 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 Not as pathetic as this woman working for the Secret Service with her infant on her lap. The agent and family members bypassed the uniform division. So this is so far. This is the craziness we have. We have number one, that you're bringing your kids. You're treating your job like it's a parade that you should bring your kiddies to, and bringing them into what is obviously a dangerous situation. If you can't recognize it's a dangerous situation, get the hell out of this job. And if you do recognize it's a dangerous situation and you're okay with walking your own children into that environment, get the hell out of this job. Because there's no way on earth you're a proper caregiver. You're taking proper steps, and you're not ridiculously reckless in a way that is dangerous and makes you the wrong person to be safeguarding anybody's life, because you can't even safeguard your own kid like any other grown adult can. That's how reckless you are. In contact about the incident, so then the second thing we had here is that she's got 2 family members. Then she leaves without telling anyone. So, okay, I have responsibilities, but I don't need to tell anyone. I'm just disappearing 5 minutes before Donald Trump's supposed to come out on stage. Okay, that's really smart. Then the agent of family members and her family members who walked in to the and then they're going to the secure area, which is designed for emergencies that you're bringing your little kids into, and you bypass the uniform division checkpoint, and you're brought there by an unpinned event staff into the room. And what does unpinned mean? That means they haven't been cleared by Secret Service to be there. So somebody who has got no business being in this room is the one who's leading Secret Service into this room. What the hell is the Secret Service doing? This is where the story goes from being one ridiculous agent into asking, how the hell is an unpinned person, someone who doesn't have clearance, bringing people into a place? How often are they in there? What the heck is happening here? You got Thomas Crook's brother, who's going to basically be like leading people. Oh, here's where the emergency setup room is. What is happening? What is happening with the Secret Service? You want to tell me there's one stupid agent? Okay. So that's kind of embarrassing and really unfortunate timing. What is the explanation for how someone who doesn't have clearance is the one who's going into that area? You know the answer from Anthony Guglielmi is? In contact about it, he says, oh, all employees of U.S. Secret Service are held to the highest standards. Apparently not. She thought she'd get away with it. They're not held to the highest standards. That's BS. And while there's no impact to the North Carolina event, the specifics of this incident are being examined. But it's a personnel matter. We're not in a position to comment further. No, there's no such thing as a damn stinking personnel matter anymore. Not after July 13th. The entire scene changed on July 13th when you showed your utter incompetence, when you showed you're not ready to do this job properly. And then there's questions as to whether you are just ridiculously, clownishly sloppy, like tripping over your own oversized shoes kind of sloppy, or whether you're willfully negligent and reckless, and you have rogue agents there who are actively trying to see Donald Trump come to some serious physical harm. And those are legitimate questions, which I have not gone into that camp yet. I'm not in that camp. I assume that you're just clownishly sloppy. But when you try hiding the ball and say you can't see because this is a personnel matter, you're out of your friggin' mind. You know what the hell you're talking about, Guglielmi. This is not a personnel matter. This is a matter of how serious are these people taking this job, that they recognize that this is a dangerous situation. You don't have the right any longer. You lost that right. Because I'm going to point something out to you. It's not simply about the fact that Donald Trump is arguably the most significant human on the planet today. When you consider the role of America in the world and the two opposite directions that America is looking at facing come November. But just imagine, even if you hate Donald Trump, even if you despise him, understand this, at least have sufficient self-awareness to recognize this, that if, God forbid, some lunatic succeeded in causing significant bodily harm to Donald Trump, that will destroy this country for decades, because the civil unrest will go through the roof, God forbid, in an event that nobody who's sane wants to see. Because there will literally be uprisings, and I'm certainly not calling for uprisings, and I wouldn't in that event, God forbid, if there was some harm that came to him. But the uprisings are so predictable of people going absolutely bananas if, in fact, sloppiness of the Secret Service enabled some serious harm to come to Donald Trump. And you're saying to yourself, oh, this is totally like, this is no big deal. There's no more important person that has to be protected from being assassinated. Literally no other human. Because the left doesn't give a damn about Kamala, other than the fact that they hope that she can stop the Trump train, which is foolish hope, especially when you look at our policies that we're going to be looking at soon. But no one's going to be crying over Kamala if, God forbid, some lunatic did something to her. And I don't want any lunatic to harm anybody. Obviously, I'm not looking for anyone to come to any physical harm, but by dint of some maniac who thinks that political violence is something that's an option. But if you don't recognize how this country will literally go down the crapper, and that life in America will change forever, if, God forbid, some physical harm was brought down upon Donald Trump, then you're really too stupid to be weighing in on your opinion. And who are we putting in charge of this? Oh, some woman who's like, I gotta go play wet nurse. Let me bring my kids to work today. No, I'm not gonna tell anyone where I'm going because obviously me being here is not really important. Why the hell are you there then? If you're not necessary, why are you there? I go 25% women, 50 plus LGBT and SS. Is it D? What do you think? 25% women. I'm all for booby juice, but geez, there's a time and a place. And yeah, I'm going to tell you something. I've said over and over again, and I will always say that being a mother is an essential role that too many people don't give sufficient value to. It's not what specifically she was doing, it's how she chose to do it. If she said, look, I got to stay home, I got to take care of my kid, I would be tipping my cap to her and say, God bless you. God bless you. And it sucks that you had to take the day off because your babysitter didn't show. God bless you. Or you call a Secret Service. You're like, I need a babysitter. What am I supposed to do? You want to send someone over here? I'm a field agent. Send someone over here who can watch my kid for a couple hours or for 5 hours. That's what you do. You call your office up. You say, my babysitter canceled. What do you want me to do? And they'll tell you what to do. This is it's like just use your freaking brain. If you can't use your brain that much, I mean, did she call Secret Service and say, hey, I got a babysitter issue here? Instead, she's going to just walk him into this place where her job is to basically be in meat suit and stand in front of any bullets of the president. What the hell's wrong with you? Only 2,000 so I get to see unsub you under 100K. That's not cool. It's really not cool. Need to do vids and segments of live. Yeah, apparently, everyone's going to be all over that, right? All over that. 2,000 views on the video, which it sounds crazy to be complaining about that. I understand that. But when you understand that on a nightly basis, I'm getting 10,000, and you just invest 4 hours to get 2,000 views, it's kind of frustrating. I look at it as me. And the failing is on me. I think to a degree, the failing is on me. I'm learning this. And I'll get better at it. I will. I'll get better at it. I'm learning it. I think it's an important element to my game. It is frustrating, though. I'm not kidding. Utter failure. New mother still got pregnant brain. That's possible. That's definitely possible. Barrett Boy says it's going to be okay. Check this out on Gateway Pundit. Man impersonating Secret Service agent spotted checking backpacks at JD Vance event in Detroit. I saw that too. I forgot about that. Yeah. That was another. They're like, hey, don't be giving out these patches which say Secret Service on them because the guy's checking backpacks and he's not even a member of the Secret Service, and the Secret Service apparently doesn't check backpacks. It's like, what the hell is happening here? Thanks, RPP, for reminding me I'm still fat. I didn't say I wasn't fat. Thank you. Thank you so much. People are just rude. Just friggin' rude. All right. So that's the lunacy that's happening there, and I don't think that Mr. Guglielmi has a valid response of we're not. It's a personnel matter. You lost that. You don't have that anymore. Can't go there anymore. Onward and upward. Donald Trump, my man, Donald Trump. You may have heard, especially if you hang out with any lefties, that he was found guilty on 34 verdicts. He's still not a convict. I cannot stress this enough. The left loves calling him a convict. I saw all sorts of idiots like Jonathan Cooper going out there claiming that, is a convicted felon allowed to vote? Because he's not a convicted felon, doofus. You're only convicted when a judge sentences you. Juries are incapable of giving verdicts. They cannot do it. It's the same thing like me designating someone to be the next Queen of England. It doesn't do anything. They are powerless to issue convictions. They issue verdicts. And if they issue a guilty verdict, that gives a judge a license to issue a conviction. And until such time as the judge decides to enter a conviction based on that guilty verdict, the person is not a convict. So he is not a convicted felon by any stretch of the imagination. And he's hoping to push back sentencing date. Trump asked New York judge to delay felony sentencing past Election Day. Now, currently, he's scheduled to be sentenced on September 18th. September 18th. Former President Donald Trump asked the New York court Thursday to delay until after November's presidential election his sentencing for the 34 state felonies the court convicted him of in May. Judge Juan Merchan scheduled a sentencing hearing for September 18th, but that date overlaps with early voting in presidential election, gives Trump too little time to appeal a potential ruling against him on a request to vacate the conviction, which Merchan is scheduled to issue 2 days prior. Attorneys Todd Blanche and Emil Bove wrote to Merchan in a letter dated Wednesday. The one-page letter was not in the court's official docket Thursday morning, but Blanche provided a copy to state's newsroom and said it had been filed with the court. Okay. Merchan's schedule is unrealistic and ignores several related issues, Trump's attorneys wrote. A sentencing proceeding could improperly affect voters' perception of Trump leading up to Election Day. What? Let me pull a copy of the letter. I thought there was a link here, and there isn't. That's on me. That's not good. Try one more, please. Isn't this fun? I'm trying to find it over here on Blanche's phone. Who was it? Violence. Finally. Oh my gosh. They only let them do one-page filings, which is why they make the font and everything as tiny as possible. Dear Justice Merchan, the court should adjourn any sentencing in this case, though one should not be necessary because dismissal and vacatur of the jury's verdicts are required based on presidential immunity until after the 2024 presidential election. We respectfully submit this pre-motion letter seeking the adjournment relief pursuant to CPL 30.30 subsection 3, which can be deemed the motion. Notwithstanding the court's ruling on the disputed recusal issue, which was, we went over that yesterday, that the judge rejected the request for him to be recused, which I think was a poor decision by the judge, but not surprising. The requested adjournment would prospectively mitigate the asserted conflicts and appearances of impropriety, which are also the subject of an ongoing congressional inquiry. Meaning, I know you said no, but let's face facts here. Congress is doing a whole inquiry to see whether or not your decision not to recuse was the right call. So, yeah, we understand that's your decision that you don't have to recuse, but Congress isn't so sure. So maybe you can mitigate, not like actually do damage until things have a chance to settle. In yesterday's ruling, the court did not address the significance of the 2019 conversations with Your Honor's daughter, criticizing President Trump's use of Twitter, with the new fact being the existing tweets from President Trump at the time of the conversations are squarely at issue in the pending presidential immunity motion. So, yesterday in his ruling, Judge Merchan claimed there's no new facts, there's no new elements here, there's no reason that I would change my mind. I issued my ruling a year ago saying that that I'm staying in here and nothing's changed. And what his lawyers are basically saying are, you kind of ignored the whole significance of Your Honor's daughter criticizing Trump's use of Twitter, and that is exactly what our presidential immunity claims are all about. Moreover, since the most recent recusal motion, as Kamala Harris did previously, Tim Walz wrongly referred to this case as a public speech, in a public speech in the Democratic Party's nominee for vice president. In the same time frame, Michael Nellis, a business partner of Your Honor's daughter at Authentic Campaigns, yeah, you know, your daughter who doesn't really affect anything, the fact that she's working for Kamala Harris, posted on social media about inter alia making maximum donations to the Harris campaign and using his clout with that campaign to get Walz to talk on our White Dudes for Harris call last week. Sentencing is currently scheduled to occur after the commencement of early voting in the presidential election, because early voting is supposed to be starting, I believe, on the 6th. By adjourning the sentencing until after that election, which is of paramount importance to an entire nation, including tens of millions of people who do not share the views of Authentic, its executives and its clients, the court would reduce, even if not eliminate, issues regarding the integrity of any future proceedings. So even if you push it back, it's not fixing everything, but you're making it less egregious. The requested adjournment would prevent District Attorney of New York from filing a sentencing submission while the court is still considering the presidential immunity motion. In an August 5th letter, Your Honor indicated the court would issue a decision on the immunity motion on September 16, 2024, that the existing September 18 sentencing date remains unchanged, and that parties should keep these dates in mind for purposes of sentencing submissions, because the District Attorney of New York is supposed to put in sentencing recommendations before the sentencing date. And there's set dates in advance that they have to make these submissions. So on August 5th, the judge is like, hey, District Attorney, you're supposed to be making submissions to me. Don't forget. However, a July 2nd, 2024 letter, the court acknowledged that sentencing may not be necessary in light of Trump, this being a reference to the Supreme Court decision which said he might have immunity. And that is what the judge wrote. He said sentencing may not be necessary. So you're sending a very conflicting message here. On July 2nd, you're saying it may not be necessary. On August 5th, you're like, oh, let's go. Date's coming up. What's happening here? We've explained in our immunity briefing why no sentencing should occur and why the case should be dismissed. Well, that's a pending question for the court. You haven't decided on that one yet. This attorney should not be permitted to file a public sentencing submission that will include what the Supreme Court described as the threat of punishment in a manner that is personally and politically prejudicial to President Trump and his family and harmful to the institution of the presidency as a result of the type of peculiar public opprobrium associated with these proceedings that troubled the Trump court. Now, what he's getting at here is this. When you say come back here and make sure you're meeting these deadlines before September 18th, you're directing the district attorney to file their recommendations for what the sentencing should be, which that will obviously become public fodder. So the next thing you know, you're going to have all these different people who are going to be talking and speculating about whether or not he's going to be sentenced to the duration of term that district attorney is going to be putting in there, which likely is going to be 34 years or whatever, 20 years, which is the maximum. And they're going to be saying, give him the maximum, give him 20 years. And that conversation is going to be happening in the middle of voting. People are going to be voting for whether or not they want him to be president. And there's going to be this public dialogue that's going on. But after the voting starts, before the voting concludes, where people are going to be speculating, I don't know if I got to vote now. They're going to want to cast their vote on September 10th, September 12th, September 15th. And while they're casting their vote, there's going to be public fodder out there, which will be talking about the fact that this attorney is looking to throw him in jail for the next 20 years. And that's exactly what the Supreme Court said is a terrible thing to have when you have a threat of punishment hanging over a political party. You're basically walking into the very problem that the Supreme Court of the United States outlined as part of the problems with these prosecutions in their decision that granted him immunity. The requested adjournment is also necessary to allow President Trump adequate time to assess and pursue state and federal appellate options in response to any adverse ruling. The Trump decision arose from an interlocutory appeal while proceedings were stayed in the federal trial court. Meaning, it didn't come up in this case. It came up in the D.C. federal case. And the Supreme Court confirmed that a trial court's denial of immunity is appealable before trial. So he has a right to be heard on this before trial, and now you're going to sentence him. So even let's say you, Judge Merchant, because this is essentially what he's saying. Let's assume that you, Judge Merchant, think that there's nothing. You're not. Immunity doesn't work here. It is appealable, and it's supposed to be appealed before he goes to trial. So how are you going to sentence him now when this is appealable, and as to the extent of his immunity and whether or not he's supposed to get immunity? And you're wrong when you say there's no immunity here. How are you going to sentence him and start saying he needs to serve his sentence at a point in time when he's supposed to have a right to appeal before he even went to trial, certainly before he gets sentenced? This is a good argument. This is a good argument to make. It follows that any denial of the pending motion is immediately appealable in a similar procedural posture. Put simply, until the District Attorney of New York presidential immunity violations are addressed fully and finally, this court may not adjudicate the matter, including at sentencing, because that's exactly what the court said don't do. A single business day is an unreasonably short period of time for President Trump to seek to vindicate these rights, if he must, in order to avoid the prospect of an executive branch that cannibalizes itself in future generations, citing from the Trump decision. The current schedule contemplates the type of highly expedited proceedings that the Supreme Court already criticized, but District Attorney of New York has demanded. As relevant here, after wrongly denying the presidential immunity existed for months, the District Attorney of New York purported to authoritatively address the scope of presidential power immunity doctrine inaccurately in a brief filed just 23 days after the Trump decision. So let's understand where the District Attorney is coming from. They said There's no immunity, no immunity, no immunity, no immunity. Supreme Court said, no, you're wrong. There is immunity. Now they're telling you that they know how immunity works. 3 weeks earlier, they were saying there's no such thing as immunity. Now they're saying, oh, well, we know exactly how immunity works, and it doesn't work over here. They did so despite only limited federal litigation experience, with the notable and telling exception of a former high-ranking official from the Biden administration, and without any input from the federal government that they felt worth mentioning. So they're just coming to their own state perspective on the matter without considering, without having any sort of background in federal law. The court still has not addressed our request to respond to the purported amicus brief, despite the fact the court has had an opportunity to consider arguments in filing since July 29, 2024. In contrast to all of this, on August 8th, the special counsel's office notified the federal trial judge in the District of Columbia that they are continuing to assess Trump. So the state district attorney says, we understand how this federal Supreme Court decision operates. But even the federal state special counsel office says, we're not sure. We need to sort of digest what they're saying here and then figure out how it applies. They've been going through this and trying to figure this out for months. The district attorney and the state court here, they're like, oh no, we got this whole thing figured out. We know exactly how it works here. Even the special counsel office said that they need to include through consultation with other DOJ components and had not even finalized position on the most appropriate schedule for parties to brief issues relating to presidential immunity. They're not even sure how long it's going to take to figure out what to do with the SCOTUS decision. But the district attorney has it all figured out. They had it all figured out beforehand, and they were dead wrong. And now they have it all figured out again over here. Now that the decision came down, they got figured out. Federal DOJ, federal special counsel, the prosecutors, they got no idea how to figure it out. But the district attorney from the state of New York, they got it. They think they have it perfect. They never had it perfect. They had it completely wrong for the last year and a half. But now they got this completely perfect. In that case, the schedule for litigating presidential immunity will not even be determined until at least September 5th, 2024 status conference. That's what's going on in the D.C. Circuit Court. The timing illustrates just how unreasonable it is to have only a single day between a decision on first impression presidential immunity issues and unprecedented and unwarranted sentencing. Finally, setting aside naked election interference objectives, there is no valid countervailing reason for the court to keep the current sentencing date on the calendar. Unless you say we got to get him before he gets elected, why would you do it now? Imagine there was no election. Think about this for a second, okay? If there was no election, would there be an urgency that you have to sentence him today rather than doing it 3 months from now, 6 months from now? The only reason you're saying there's urgency is because there's an election, which is ridiculous that you need to interfere with the election. There's no basis for continuing to rush. Accordingly, we respectfully request that the sentencing, if one is needed, be adjourned until after the presidential election. So, do I think this argument will work? Here's why he has a good shot of this argument working. The reason he might have a good shot of having this work is because Judge Merchan seems to have concerns. I was very surprised to see him push back the dates. Initially, the date was supposed to be July 11th. Then you have the decision from the Supreme Court about immunity, and all of a sudden he pushes it back 2 months. This seems to be something that I think he's very afraid of getting this wrong. I think he's afraid of getting this wrong. He's not worried about the whole gag thing because he feels like there's enough precedent there between what the D.C. Circuit Court said and what Engoron did that he can get away with it and not worry about that. But I think he knows he's going out on a limb here and saying, yeah, we're just not going to actually consider anything about this decision here. That's really going out on a limb of looking ridiculously partisan. So I think he's got a good shot. I don't think Merchan was looking to do this on September 18th anyway. I think he's got a good shot. I think the reason I'm hesitant is I think Merchan is terrified about giving Trump a win. What he's going to do, I cannot tell you. I cannot tell you whether he's going to grant it or not, but I think he has a good shot. I'll be disappointed if he doesn't delay it. I think he will delay it beyond September 18th. There's just a lot of, he's really going out on a limb to say we're going to have this thing done on September 18th. He's really going out on a limb. So I think he's got a pretty good shot. But who knows? I'll certainly keep you abreast of that. Maybe she's got pregnant brain. I don't know. Why Blanche suck on combating convict, even try? Convict. I don't know what that means when you say suck at combating convict, but the label convict? I don't think he labeled him convict anywhere in this letter. Joey V, good night. To head Judge locks Trump up. Yes, no, how long? Oh, gun to head, Judge locks Trump up. Yes, no, how long? I think the most he'll do is he'll confine him to Mar-a-Lago. And if he has his way, let's assume Trump loses the election, because if Trump wins the election, I don't think that he's going to be able to lock him up. If he loses the election, I think that if he loses, I think we're probably looking at a sentence of 3-year confinement in Mar-a-Lago. That's what I would guess. Well, Nate, see how he's working the algo. Nate is in a whole different world than I am. Americans will do nothing when the worst happens to Trump. They'll sit back and take it all like they always have since the end of World War II. I don't know if I buy that. I don't think that's true. I don't want to see it happen, obviously. I perfected rude before you could spell Jeffrey's tube. So a Jeffrey's tube. Wait, that's a Star Trek reference. That's a Star Trek reference, isn't it? All right. Time for us to discuss Kamala's plan. Now, the left is laughing at it. Laughing, I say. Ah, ha, ha, ha. I don't think he's going to end up being convicted. I don't think it's going to end up happening. I don't think it's going to happen. He's definitely not going to go to prison. That's never going to happen. How would they even do that? So that's that story there. And the final story tonight, final story of the night, is Kamala's economic plan going up in flames. All right, so let's talk about her economic plan. And I'm going to walk you through the problem that she has, and it's a pretty amazing problem if you're her political opponent like Donald Trump is. It really is. It's an amazing problem that is pretty much unsolvable for her. So, Kamala Harris economic advisor Bharat Ramamurthy behind student debt cancellation progressive economic agenda, according to a report. What do we got here? A key economic advisor to Vice President Kamala Harris campaign and ex-Elizabeth Warren aide, and she's a disaster, is a staunch proponent of the administration's leftist student debt cancellation, transition away from oil and gas and other items on the progressive agenda the Republicans say have only made inflation worse. Bharat Ramamurthy recently joined the revamped Democratic presidential campaign after working as a deputy director at the Biden White House National Economic Council, according to reports from Bloomberg and the New York Times. He's one of several senior advisors now in the spotlight as Harris looks to distance herself from the political baggage of President Biden's record. Good luck on that, with both respect to economy and inflation, by delivering a high-profile speech Friday in North Carolina. But a review of Ramamurthy's past policy stands showed the one-time aid to Senator Warren has long supported some of the most controversial Biden administration policies, which critics say caused inflation to soar. On clean energy, $15 minimum wage, raising taxes on the rich, reducing the influence of money in politics, and more. The progressive agenda is America's agenda, he tweeted in October 2020. We don't need to be in a defensive crouch on this stuff. The public is already with us. Broad student loan debt cancellation via executive order is good economics and politics, according to this guy. Let's just cancel all debts. All debt is gone. And you get a free student loan. And you get a free student loan. And you get a free student loan. Ramamurthy also said the following month, pointing to favorable public polls, arguing that it would be better to do a $1 trillion in debt cancellation by executive order than negotiate a bill in Congress. Yeah, that's totally going to work. That's totally legal. He also touted Warren's plan in the 2020 Democratic primary to forgive up to $50,000 in student debt for those making under $100,000 per year, which prompted one voter to angrily confront her. That's talking about confronting Elizabeth Warren about the cancellation having screwed those who did the right thing. We should look at that. Let's look at her being confronted. Jack. We got an ad. I didn't want an ad. All right. Wait, what? This is not what I... Really? Really? Yeah, all right. Another time. Trump is blasting Kamala Harris's high grocery prices and slams her economic agenda as a Maduro plan, because what she unveiled is that she's looking to set price controls on grocery prices. That the government will set price controls. This is what her thought is. We're going to stop price gouging. Price gouging. If you're unfamiliar with the term price gouging, that's where basically there's collusive efforts by a group of major distributors or manufacturers to say, hey, we're going to just jack up the prices on people because there's a real need now, or for one reason or another, and that they're gouging the consumers by jacking up their prices. So she said, we're going to stop that by setting government controls as to how much they can charge. Former President Donald Trump talked at length about the state of the economy on Thursday, slamming Vice President Kamala Harris' soon-to-be-revealed economic agenda as a socialist plan that will continue Biden-Harris policies that have ravaged the cost of living, which that's what they've done. They have ravaged the cost of living. We call it the Maduro plan. Like something straight out of Venezuela or the Soviet Union, he said, referencing socialist Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Harris's new economic plan is an admission that her economic policies have totally failed. It's totally failed and caused really a catastrophe for our country, and beyond that, a catastrophe for the world. Harris is expected to roll out her full plans for the economy in a speech on Friday. God, what a disaster. The 45th president hosted an almost 2-hour speech and press conference in Bedminster, New Jersey. Tables were filled with cans of food, meat, milk, and cereal, highlighting how much groceries have skyrocketed since Harris became VP. Trump said meat Poultry and fish are up 23%. Children's food up by 24.1%. Baking goods by 27.2%. Cereal and baking goods have gone up 26% under the Biden-Harris administration. I'll tell you this, soda has gone up by like 200%. Or at least 100. He's predicted that an economic crash will happen if Harris is elected in November, blasted her for wanting her to take his tax cuts, and claimed she wanted to end private health care in favor of a communist system. Trump noted that the economy was in better shape when he was in office and asserted that Harris has a communist lean. To solve the price problem, he offered one large solution. Drill, baby, drill. That's what we're going to do. We're going to fix the economy. We're going to drill, baby, drill. Would that work? Possibly. It's definitely going to help. To solve the price problem, he offered one large solution. Drill, baby, drill. So when I win, I will immediately bring prices down. Starting on day one, we will end Kamala's war on American energy, and we will drill, baby, drill. We're going to drill, baby, drill. That's going to bring down prices of everything because energy brought it up, Trump went on. He also reiterated his vow to reduce energy prices in half and no taxes on tips or Social Security, which he said the economy would be able to make back through growth. Look at him putting those cereals up there. Look at him. I'm feeling hungry already. Within a 12-month period, we'll be able to reduce prices between regulation and having a tremendous supply, which we have, he said, of energy. The no taxes on Social Security is due to rising inflation, he said, adding that he won't raise the minimum age. So you're not going to have to wait till you're 90 to get your Social Security. To solve the housing crisis, Trump said he would open up some federal land to build more houses on to increase supply. I don't know if that would solve the housing crisis. I'm skeptical about that. I agree with him about bringing down the cost of energy will have a significant impact on. It can have a significant impact across the board because the cost of production and delivery and distribution, everything goes down when you bring down the price of oil. And you can bring down the price of oil by increasing its production. I don't think it's going to bring down to the prices we saw under Trump 4 years ago, that's for sure. We're going to open up tracts of federal land for housing construction. We desperately need housing for people who can't afford what's going on now. And when we open it up, we can take some of the restrictions, take off some of the restrictions and regulations. The question is, do people want to live in these federal lands? I'm sure there are vast tracts of land that are under possession of the federal government, but the value of property is determined based on three things. The only three things that are important when it comes to real property are location, and location. That's all that matters. So, opening up some, cutting off a piece of Yellowstone, which I don't think that he's talking about that, but cutting off a piece in the middle of Wyoming, I don't know if that's going to solve a housing crisis that's happening in California or a housing crisis that's happening in New York. I don't know how much federal land is under federal control in areas that people are looking to live. Could help, but I'm skeptical. On that, I'm skeptical. It comes after Trump on Wednesday outlined his second-term vision to support the middle class, featuring his plans to slash energy prices in half, dramatically claw back taxes, and beat back inflation. I mean, am I wrong? Tell me if you think I'm wrong. Am I wrong in saying, I don't know that opening up federal land is going to do anything to help housing so much? In the press conference that followed, Trump responded to questions about Republicans pushing him to focus on issues and not personal attacks against Harris, pointing out that she also attacks and arguing he's entitled to make them, which that's all she does. That's all she's talked about is attacking Trump. I know what kind of guy he is. I was a federal prosecutor for 23 years. I'm familiar with his type. He said, I'm very angry at her that she weaponized the justice system against me and other people. Very angry at her. I think I'm entitled to personal attacks. I don't have a lot of respect for her. I have a lot of respect for her intelligence. And I think she'll be a terrible president. I think it's very important that we win. And whether personal attacks are good, bad, I mean, she certainly attacks me personally. Trump later said he thinks running a calm campaign. He thinks he is running a calm campaign. I agree, he is. And that this race is different in terms of strategy and defining his opponent, since all we have to do is call them a communist or a socialist or somebody that's going to destroy our country, because it's true. He barely mentions Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, Harris' running mate, but did criticize him for putting tampons in boys' bathroom in the state. Press conference was Trump's second in 2 weeks. He continues to pan Harris for hiding and doing zero interviews since taking over for Biden. So I'm curious. I'm gonna show you how the left is just thinks she's out of her mind with this whole price gouging control thing. Oh, that was your point? Blanche hasn't put forward distinction in media, allowed pundits to put forward convicted felon, contrasting how well Alina Habba did civil fraud case. I think Blanche is much more about trying to win his case than he is about the PR element. I just don't think that's his thing. Alina Habba is far more adept at the PR element than Todd Blanche. We're overdue for Jubilee. Cancel it all? Yeah, maybe. Cancel all student debt. What's with the half measures? Everyone needs food to survive. Just make it free. Probably will be bugs. No, God, no. It would be. Totally would be bugs. Energy is a multiplier in an economy. Everything uses. That's true. That's my point. You can also make cheap energy with nuclear. Thank you, W. Thank you, George W. Only way EV works and will open up domestic manufacturing. All right. All right. Let's take a quick look over here. Make sure I didn't miss anything. All right. So, why is price control so disastrous? Why is this? Could price controls work? Put price controls on food. Could that be a benefit? Well, let's take a look. Where is it? Tab here. Setting price controls. America would not be the first place to set price controls on food. It's been tried elsewhere. For example, this is what they tried in Venezuela. Venezuela in 2011 to oversee, this was on July 18, 2011, Venezuela to oversee product prices, limit profits. Venezuela is creating a new agency. This is going to go well. To limit profit margins for companies operating in areas such as food and medicine, the vice president said on Monday, in the latest effort to boost state control over the economy. The agency aims to control inflation in the OPEC nation, which has one of the highest rates in the world, by stopping businesses charging usurious prices that state officials deem are far above their costs of production. Quote, this law is meant to confront those speculators who have for a long time been pillaging Venezuelans' right to live in dignity, Vice President Elias Aoua, I don't even know, said during televised remarks, adding that it was not an attack on the private sector. Not at all. No, we're just going to take control of the food industry. The law creating the new industry will be published officially on Tuesday. Critics said it could worsen periodic shortages of staple goods that have been a thorn in the side for the socialist administration of President Hugo Chavez, who was receiving cancer treatment in Cuba. This is back in 2011. If this is fully applied, it will steadily lead to a wartime economy, said Jorge Badi, head of the country's principal business group, Fede Camaras, in an interview with local radio. Well, who was right? Who was right? Was it Jaua, or was it Jorge Badi? Well, let's take a look. Venezuela inflation rate going back the last 25 years. Venezuela inflation rate from 1985 to 2025. Now, they always struggle with inflation forever. I mean, look at this, 11%, 28%, 29%. They even went to like 84% in 1989. They were always struggling with inflation there. Their currency is a schwach currency, 99%. These are inflation rates which we cannot even fathom here in North America. I mean, this is just astonishing. There's 2011. It was at 26%. You can understand people being frustrated. They got decades of this high inflation. That's pretty bad. Now we go to 2013. Now it's going to 21%. Oh, now when things start kicking into gear, in 2016 it goes to 254%. Uh-oh, this is not a good trend. And then what's this? 2017, 400. That's crazy. 413%. Oh my God. 63,374%. This is you're setting your cash on fire to keep a fireplace warm. It's not worth anything, your money. Your money's not worth anything. You're bankrupt. That's astonishing. Coming down to 19,000% in 2019, 2,000% in 2020. And now starting to level off now that they had to change the regime over there. Still at 150%. Because they're trying to sort their economy there. Screaming afuera has helped. But hyperinflation has been a serious problem there. Because that's what happens when you engage in price controls. But don't take my word for it. No, I know there's a handful of lefties in the audience there are like, no, it really works. It really works. I bring to you the Washington Post. The Washington Post. And this is a woman, the author of this column is someone who I probably agree with on like maybe 5% of things in the world. And this happens to be one of them. This is in that sweet 5% part. Good for you. Good for you, Catherine Rampell. When your opponent calls you communist, maybe, just maybe, don't propose price controls. This is just the opinion of Catherine Rampell. I keep forgetting her name. It's hard to exaggerate how bad Kamala Harris's price gouging proposal is. This is Washington Post, not Washington Times. Washington Times is a right-leaning paper. Washington Post, where truth goes to die. Where truth goes to die. That's where it goes to die. It's like truth is like living a nice, happy life. And it's just dancing along. I'm true. I'm truth. I'm truth. What's that? What's that in the distance over there? It's the Washington Post. Oh no! Sammy! It's catching up to me. The Washington Post is catching up to me. Oh no! That's where truth goes to die. The Washington Post. And here we are. Here we are with an opinion piece in the Washington Post, which is saying it's hard to exaggerate how bad Kamala Harris's price gouging proposal is. Price gouging is a focus of Vice President Kamala Harris's economic agenda. Her presidential campaign says she'll crack down on excessive prices and excessive corporate profits, particularly for groceries. We're going after the food. We're going to be in control of the food. We're going to be in charge of distributing the food. That's where they're going. So what levels count as excessive, you might ask? That's to be determined, but Harris will ban it. That's the thing about price gouging. As has been said of hardcore pornography, You know it when you see it. Can't really tell you when it's gouging. When is it fair? When is it gouging? Yeah, you know when you see it. It's kind of like when they say tax the rich or make them pay their fair share, which is what the left loves to say. I can't tell you how many elections left has won by saying make them pay their fair share, which is that's such an amorphous term that can always, they're never paying enough for their fair share. I don't care. You charge them 90%. So what? They're still making millions of dollars. It's not hard to figure out where this proposal came from. Voters want to blame someone for high grocery bills, and the presidential candidates have apparently decided the choices are either the Biden administration or corporate greed. Harris has chosen the latter. It almost sounds as if Ms. Rempel here is admitting it was the Biden administration's fault. In a news release Wednesday, her campaign said the first 100 days of her presidency would include the first ever federal ban on price gouging on food and groceries. Let's look at the exact wording from her campaign. Back. Harris on Friday will unveil a proposed ban on price gouging in the grocery and food industries, embracing a strikingly populist proposal. It's not popular. And her most significant economic policy announcement since becoming the Democratic Party's nominee. She basically said, hey, everyone, he's calling me a communist. No, but the state's going to control your food. In a statement released late Wednesday, the Harris campaign said that if elected, she would push for the first ever federal ban on food price hikes with sweeping new powers for federal authorities. Harris on Friday will also announce plans to lower prescription drug and housing costs, the campaign said. We're just going to just price everything here. Harris plans amount to a sharp escalation in the economic populism of even President Joe Biden. That's not economic populism. That is not what... Populist doesn't mean stupid. I don't know, this jackass, Jeff Stein, calling it populism. Oh, yeah, that's totally populism. Where is that? How is that populism? While offering some overtures in the business elite, Harris is attempting to respond to intense voter frustration over rising prices, particularly grocery prices, with a far-reaching proposal. Far-reaching. Notice how he doesn't call it insane. Harris' plan will include the first ever federal ban on price gouging on food and groceries, setting clear rules of the road to make clear that big corporations unfairly exploit consumers to run up excessive corporate profits on food and groceries, the campaign said in a statement. The exact details of the campaign's plan are not immediately clear because they sound so insane when you say them out loud. But Harris said she would aim to enact the ban within her first 100 days, in part by directing the Federal Trade Commission to impose harsh penalties on firms that break new limits on price gouging. The statement did not define price gouging or excessive profits. Republican and many Democratic economists see mandatory price controls as counterproductive. Really? Counterproductive? Counterproductive government intervention as opposed to the very productive government intervention? It discourages firms from reducing enough supply to meet demand. This represents a return to the lazy, failed economic policies in the 1970s when price controls proved to be a disaster for the economy, said Brian Riedel, a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute, a conservative-leaning think tank. It shows Harris is pandering for easy answers on the economy even more aggressively than Biden had. Biden had talked about price gouging, but was not this aggressive, seeking reforms to actually ban it. Harris is also releasing a plan calling for 3 million new construction housing units, according to a person familiar with the matter. Confirmed a report in the Wall Street Journal, Harris' plan will outline a series of tax incentives and other measures to encourage building homes for first-time buyers, the person said. The plan will also include a $25,000 credit for first-time home buyers with more than 1 million people, which more than 1 million people can claim. Biden previously called for building 2 million new homes. Harris's proposals are expected to be larger versions of housing plans already introduced by Biden. So pretty much the same, more of the same old, same old. Harris' announcement comes as Democratic policymakers have been looking for clues. They were looking for clues, trying to figure out what the hell are you going to do? What the hell are you going to do besides say Trump is bad? Trump is bad. I know he's bad. Trump is bad. Biden staffed his White House and key regulatory agencies with appointments significantly to the left of President Barack Obama's team, and on a range of policies, antitrust, trade, labor rights, industrial policy. He shattered the party consensus that had prevailed since the Clinton administration, pushing for more government intervention in nearly every facet of the nation's economy. And look how well that's turned out. Much of Harris's approach so far suggests continuity with Biden's policymaking, including selection of running mate crazy leftist Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, who has enacted a state child tax credit and universal free school lunch, among other liberal policies. My God, you can understand why even Catherine Rempel is like, this is insanity. Because what are the rules? Clear rules of the road. Thresholds determine when a price or profit level becomes excessive. Memo doesn't say the campaign did not answer questions I sent seeking clarification. The most likely template for Harris's proposal is a recent bill from Senator Elizabeth Warren. Harris co-sponsored similar legislation with Warren in 2020 when Harris was a senator. Warren's bill would ban any grossly excessive price during an atypical disruption of a market. Alas, no definition was provided for these terms either. Rather, the bill would empower the Federal Trade Commission to enforce bans using any metric it deems appropriate. We're going to let this agency figure out what the numbers should be. That's how we're going to pass a law and then just let this agency, who we're just going to appoint people here who we like and can control, we're going to appoint our puppets there into the agency so that they can determine exactly when something is considered price gouging. This is monstrous. This is disastrous. It's hard to exaggerate how bad this policy is. That's not my words. That's a leftist talking. That's a leftist talking. You're going to see she's not a fan of Trump either. And so she's a leftist. She's a leftist. Even though she's writing in the opinion section of Washington Post, she's a leftist. Maybe not. She's obviously not as crazy leftist as these Looney Tunes. It is in all but name a sweeping set of government-enforced price controls across every industry, not only food. Supply and demand would no longer determine prices or profit levels. Far-off Washington bureaucrats would. The FTC would be able to tell, say, a Kroger in Ohio, the acceptable price it can charge for milk. And by the way, the acceptable price that's too low. You can't charge so little. You have to charge more. At best, this would lead to shortages, black markets, and hoarding. Among other distortions seen previous times, countries tried to limit price growth by fiat. Fiat is by order of government. When they say the term fiat, they're going to control by fiat. There's a reason now where price gouging laws that exist in some United States are rarely invoked. At worst, it might accidentally raise prices. That's because, among other things, the legislation would ban companies from offering lower prices to a big customer such as Costco than to Joe's Corner Store, which means quantity discounts are in trouble because you can't charge such a low price. Worse, it would require public companies to publish detailed internal data about costs, margins, contracts, and their future pricing strategies. Posting cost and pricing plans publicly is a fantastic way for companies to collude to keep prices higher, all facilitated by the government. It's like she's so stupid, incompetent, useless. The very first policy she's putting out is a recipe for disaster that has sunk nations before. And that's her plan. That's what she comes up with. Let's try something that's never worked and try it here. Idiot. The government can increase housing by going to all the towns that have abandoned factories and bring back manufacturing jobs, then replace the thousands of abandoned homes in 8 states. Or at least encourage renovation. That's true. That's not a bad idea. Pulverized maggot milk. Do not eat the bugs. Oh, jeez, that sounds so disturbing. That sounds so gross. Oh my God. Normally, the government doesn't like collusion. In fact, the Harris campaign statement about her anti-price gouging agenda highlights a case she won in California Attorney General against companies colluding to fix prices for LCD flat screens. Presidential administrations of both parties have similarly pursued cases against cartels and other anti-competitive conduct. That's because price fixing is already illegal. See, you can't price gouge, you can't set prices anyway. And it should be. It's important to distinguish between real cartel behavior, whether among TV makers or meat packers, versus temporary spikes in prices and profits due to high demand or supply chain disruptions. Harris's economic advisors are either too confused or lazy to tell the difference. They don't seem to know the history of these kinds of policies and apparently haven't thought very hard about what would make markets more competitive or improve the lives of voters. They just want to tell you, don't worry, we're going to promise we're going to lower prices. We're going to set the price lower, and you're too stupid to understand how that's going to destroy your lives. They don't even seem terribly familiar with what's happening to grocery prices when the battle against inflation has, believe it or not, pretty much already been won. Interesting. So she's going to make the point that the battle to control grocery prices has been won by saying that it hasn't gone up that much anymore. So when you look at this chart here, what it's basically showing you is how much is it rising per year? Or really it's per month. How much is going up, how much is going up, how much is going up. And now it's not going up as fast. It's not decreasing. So when they see this 1.1%, that doesn't mean prices are going down. It means this high level mark, we're 1.1% higher. The 12% you saw, now it's 13%. But it's not going up at a rate of 12% per year. So it's not increasing to 24%. See what I'm saying? So our rate of inflation, prices were at X. We had crazy inflation where it started going up fast. And now it's going up slower. Still going up, but going up at a slower rate. The problem is, well, I'll get there in a second. If you're Kamala Harris, you got a lot of problems. On Wednesday, a government report showed that grocery prices in July were up a measly 1% from last year, as the White House itself touted. Indeed, annual grocery price inflation has hovered around that level for the past 8 months, way down from the double-digit inflation in mid-2022. Additionally, profit margins for supermarkets are notoriously thin. And this is something that people don't realize. You talk about price gouging, they win on volume. They want to sell a lot of stuff and make a little bit on each. They don't have high price. Like, what are you trying to fix? Despite Harris and Warren's accusations about excessive corporate profits, those margins remained relatively meager, even when prices surged. There's a reason the price went up. It's because the cost of production and distribution went up. The groceries industry net profit margins peaked at 3% in 2020. 3%! That is such a ridiculously low margin of profit, 3%. 3%! Make something for $10 and sell for $10.30. It's nothing. Falling to 1.6% last year. If that sounds high, note that the average net profit margin, which is left after all expenses for all public companies nationwide, is 8%. That sounds a lot more normal. So what actually happened with grocery inflation if not price gouging? Super strong consumer demand plus major supply disruptions, the coronavirus pandemic, bird flu, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, etc., pushed prices and profits up. Didn't really push profits up, pushed prices up. Once those shocks abated and consumers started spending down their pandemic savings, price growth cooled. These are the kinds of facts the Harris campaign should be explaining to consumers, not exploiting for demagogic gain, because push polling suggests people are mad about greed. But more to the point, if your opponent claims you're a communist, maybe don't start with an economic agenda that can accurately be labeled as federal price controls. We already have plenty of economic gibberish coming from the Republican presidential ticket. I told you she doesn't like Trump. Do you really need more from the other side, too? What do you think you've been getting for the last 4 years? What do you think you got from Trump? Economic gibberish you're complaining about from the Republicans. Jesus. Here's the problem she has. The problem she has is this. The prices are not coming back down. They're not coming back down. Prices are what prices are. So, yeah, the price of gas has dipped, and probably they'll manage to keep it dipping while they release gas and oil from the oil reserves to help keep the price down temporarily until the election. So now is the time for you to actually, buy stuff because it's going to be cheaper until the election, and stop buying in second week of November. But so they're going to do whatever they can to try and keep prices down. But overall, when you go to the supermarket, you're still facing the same insane prices. The prices are not going to be dipping anything noticeable. And this is what she's got. So she can promise her pie in the sky thing. Everyone will say, why didn't you do it yet? Why didn't you do it yet? Whatever it is that you were planning on doing, why didn't you do it over the last 4 years? And the fact that prices are going to remain high going into election. As I said in Locals last week, it's about the economy, stupid. ITES. That's what wins and loses elections. You have a great economy, you win. You have a terrible economy, you lose. They need to basically start convincing America that the economy is great. And they're working hard to do that. But the problem they have is that the economy ain't great. The economy is pretty sucky. Most people have despair about the ability to buy a house. They have despair when they go to the grocery store and they're looking at how ridiculously high prices are compared to what they were 3 or 4 years ago. So Donald Trump is actually sitting in the catbird seat on this issue. The only reason that he has any chance of losing is because of fears about them corrupting the election. But just given a normal standard year, she's cooked. She's cooked. She's basically inheriting the ridiculously terrible record of her predecessor in Joe Biden, while at the same time promising to double down on the stupid policies that got us here. And to a degree, to be fair, between you and me, some of the price increases were not really a result of Biden policies. I'm going to be fairly honest with you about the increase in prices. A lot of the increase in prices resulted from the disruptions that came when we had the logjam in our western ports. You might remember that there were certain products you couldn't get because they were all being held up as we started trying to open up after COVID lockdowns. So a large part of that, to be fair with you, I don't know if a large part, but a significant part of the increases we saw resulted from that. But then you have to ask, why did the prices come back down once those got relaxed? Why didn't they start coming down? And to that end, you really can blame the Biden policy, where he basically, on day one, said, I'm shutting down the Keystone Pipeline. So he went woke and said, oh, no. I'm going to signal to you to jack up the cost to make a lower supply of natural gas. And that just freaked everyone out and drove the price of energy up. And when the price of energy goes up, that has an across-the-board impact. So, in a normal election, she's screwed. And these policies she's offering here, where she's basically promising to make us Venezuela Part 2.0, are the stupidest thing imaginable. So stupid that even the left is like, are you out of your freaking mind? Are you really going to unleash this tomorrow? Are you really going to say this out loud? But she's an idiot. What the hell is she going to come up with? What do you think she's capable of coming up with? Please. It's Kamala Harris for crying out loud. It's not like she says she's a creative solution here, because there is no creative solution, short of let's start drilling, which she can't say that to her base. Barrett Boy says grocery store profit margin runs less than 2%. Apple, 26%. Meanwhile, they demand excessive profit margins for flipping burgers. Yep. I know. In the food industry, there's not high markup. It's all about, Maybe in restaurant, because that's more of a service industry. But when you're talking about actual food that you're buying in a grocery, no. There's high markup when you go to places that are like convenience store type places, where you go into cities where prices are jacked up really high because it's just city prices. Like if I go into New York City, whatever it is, you can tack on an extra 20% to what you would pay in Queens. 30% higher than it is in Brooklyn. If you buy something in Manhattan, it's ridiculous. And arguably, and it feels like it's a lot more than that. It feels like it's a lot more than that. Touche indeed. Anyway, so I'm thrilled that at least people on the left are being sufficiently intellectually honest to say that this plan you got here is pretty freaking stupid. It gives me a little hope. It should give you some hope too. Should give you some hope too. Anyhow, that's what I got for you tonight. That is what I have for you tonight. Any questions? I find it possible that nobody in the Secret Service knew she brought her kids to work. She isn't the only one who's negligent. Probably true. Probably true. Reducto ad absurdum. Let's force the price of all goods to $5 and force the wages to $50 an hour. Economy solved. It's so simple. It's so easy. It's so easy. This is a guy who gets it. This is a guy who understands. This. You wonder why he's the king of recruitment. He understands. And this warms the cockles of my heart. Thank you. I try to be honest. I don't think there's anything to be gained by trying to just cheer for one side. That's why when he makes a suggestion as to how he's going to fix housing, I'm going to say to you, I'm not seeing it. I don't really see, unless I'm unaware of massive tracts of federal land that are somehow in the middle of downtown Los Angeles, in the middle of San Francisco. I don't really see how that's going to solve those cities' problems. I'm not buying it. I'm not. It's not like all of a sudden they're just going to relocate to eastern Montana. No one's doing that. And I will say this. It bothers me that presidential elections are about the economy because, frankly, the government should have nothing to do with the economy. Anytime the government's trying to intercede in fixing the economy, they just make it freaking worse. Much worse. Stupider worse. Terribly, terribly worse. Invariably. Perhaps the reductions, the loosening up of restrictions that Trump did in his first term, that helped the economy, but that's only because they shouldn't have been there in the first place. The role of the executive branch is to enforce the laws. The states are not supposed to be engaging in controlling the economy or fixing the economy or remedying it or giving a nice little lift or engaging in some sort of new job plan. That's not what the government's supposed to be doing. That's not anything that they're supposed to be doing. So that's why it bothers me. Frankly, the economy, if you look at how you have a healthy economy, how we traditionally have had a healthy economy is by and large by having free capitalism with certain minor restraints to make sure that the people are not devoured. So, you go back 125 years when the robber barons were making it impossible for anyone to earn money, and we ended in the introduction of antitrust legislation. That was a positive thing because that's where you had giants who were too big for people to deal with. And then basically everyone was so starved for jobs, they were literally working for 6 cents an hour in coal mines and developing black lung death 5 years after starting work there. I know it's not black lung death, but something like that. I mean, it was impossible. So they had certain bare minimum requirements in order to ensure that people were not going to kill themselves trying to put bread on the table. Okay. I think that's probably a good thing. But by and large, when you have a growth period in the economy, it's because there's innovation that is fixed, that is introducing new things. Because there's investment, innovation. Instead of trying to figure out how to slice up the pie like some stupid loser socialist, capitalism says, hey, let's make the pie bigger. I'll give you an example. I'll walk you through this, okay? Think of how much more gets accomplished today because of the introduction of the personal computer. Before Bill Gates went completely mad scientist lunatic, I actually said to myself, I don't care how much money this guy makes. I don't care if he's got more money than God's banker. I don't care. I don't care, because frankly, at the end of the day, the guy changed the world in ways that were just immeasurable. Immeasurable. And he basically took whatever the pie was and made it like that. I mean, because when you introduce the personal computer, all of a sudden that translates into people being able to get things done faster, more efficiently. And then things become cheaper. I mean, it was an astonishing improvement and then enhanced and built the pie. So now people, instead of having, all of a sudden now, just even the word processing element, think of how many trees have been saved because of the fact that we don't have to be sitting here clack, 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 clacking on typewriters. The economies shift completely into an online economy. I mean, just think 50 years ago, you think anyone could have conceived the fact that you never have to leave your house and you can basically stock your house up with anything you ever wanted? It made us richer than kings. We are richer than kings who lived 150 years ago. The most impoverished person today is wealthy compared to King Louis XVI. If you look at just as far as his or her access to drugs, I mean healthy drugs. So I'm saying to medicine, to food, to education, everything about their lives, to convenience, to freaking air conditioning, to indoor plumbing. I mean, our lives are improved via innovation. So the idea that the government is going to sit here trying to figure out how to fix the economy because that's what they're really good at, right? I mean, when have they fixed anything? For crying out loud, they can't even figure out how to run a postal service. Compare them to any other private entity, private courier, and you see how ridiculous it was. They actually got much better with the postal service over the last couple of decades. I'm not going to kid you. They used to be a disaster. It used to really be a disaster. Look at our education system. Look at how pathetic a public education system is compared to like any private industry of schooling, compared to charter schools. So the government's not supposed to be fixing this stuff. It's not anywhere in the Constitution that they have a role in that. But you cannot ignore the fact that historically, specifically presidential elections, and even on lower levels in federal government, the economy dictates your likelihood of returning to office. Invariably. Almost without exception. Perhaps the one exception you can say was 2012 with Barack Obama, and even then he had mild growth and was running against a pretty pathetic attack there in Mitt Romney. So, but invariably, if the economy is doing well, that party is going to stay in power. And if it sucks, they ain't. 1980, Jimmy Carter's economy was a disaster. He's gone. Reagan comes in and the economy booms. Why? Because the introduction of the personal computer. what ends up happening? He ends up staying in power. He ends up trouncing Walter Mondale in 1984, destroying him in ways we may never see again because the economy was booming. It was booming so well into the late 80s that it swept George Bush Sr. into office. And then you have that downturn that comes in early 90s and George Bush loses his position. And in comes Clinton. And he manages to benefit from the surge of dot-coms. And so when he benefits from that surge of dot-coms, and everything's going hunky-dory, and Hillary Clinton says, oh, it's because we came up with this magic corporate tax rate of 26.7%. That's why everything went. No, you happen to be blessed that you came into power at a time when you actually had the dot-com surge. And what happens? Dot-coms collapse. The next thing you know, get rid of the Democrats, bring a Republican. So Bush comes in. Economy starts perking back up. Everyone's really happy with Bush. They're all excited about the war and trying to get revenge for 9/11. So he wins in 2004. Tells Kerry, go take a hike. What happened in 2008? You got the big crash. What does everyone say? Get out of here. Adios. We're done with you. Why? Because it's an economic crash. Economic crash, you're done. McCain had no chance. Now, to be fair, in that particular election was a little bit strange, a little bit unusual, because in that particular election, what you're dealing with is, the rise of Barack Obama and his ability to portray himself as a genuine leader, which he never had actual leadership skills, but portray himself as a genuine leader and sell it with like the most amazing charlatan on earth, and while accomplishing absolutely nothing. So he didn't really even need the crash of 2008 in order to come into power, but it certainly helped him basically destroy McCain. It was a dead man walking. And he sweeps into power in an election that anyone could have seen coming. Everyone's very excited about hope and change and how he's going to come in there. And then 2012 comes along. The economy is slowly picking up. And there it's a little bit of a weird situation because it's like, things are okay. They're all right. We're not really growing as much as we hope. But, nothing disastrous has happened. Selling it how, and he also managed to kill bin Laden. So that was a nice feather in his cap. Not that I think he actually killed him, but that's for a different day. So then you got basically, that's a weird election in that context. But the economy wasn't tanking. And then after 4 more years of basically zero growth, everyone's like, what the hell's happening here? And Trump comes in. And people are sick of basically being called racist rednecks and being told how they're deplorable and terrible human beings. And Hillary got destroyed. Not destroyed, but certainly, you had the miracle kid in Trump coming in there and winning the election. And everything's doing great with the economy, but what happened in 2020? We all know. Economy tanked. COVID hits, economy tanks. All of a sudden you have a close election. Close enough for them to yank out. So, yeah, now we have an economy that's a disaster. You tell me, this Nimrod, this cackling Nimrod, who the only policy she's embracing that anyone likes is copying from Donald Trump. You think that she has any sort of genuine chance here? Please. No, it's a joke. The only question is how much thievery they can get away with. Can they get away with enough thievery to overcome what should be a landslide election? Especially when you consider all the gravitas that Trump has generated between being martyred through the ridiculous persecutorial lawfare, and then followed up by literally miraculously surviving an assassination attempt and standing up like a champion there, screaming "Fight, fight, 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 fight!" So yeah, this should be a landslide. Will it be? I don't know. It should be. What do you think about the monkeypox scam? I didn't take the last jab, and damn sure won't take any more jabs ever. They're saying it's the water in San Francisco. I don't think it's the water. I assume it's just. I haven't really been looking into the monkeypox thing. And I'm definitely not a doctor. All jokes aside, I'm definitely not a doctor. So I really haven't been looking at it enough, other than from what I understood, it was a disease that was ravaging a certain community. And it's a community that I think that YouTube will scream and get angry at me if I get more detailed than that. But I think if you know, you know. But that was ravaging a certain community, and that if you're not in that community, you're talk to your doctor about how to stay safe from monkeypox. I don't know. I'm telling you now, I don't know. From what I understand, I'm not at any kind of risk of monkeypox. Nobody in my immediate family is at any kind of risk of monkeypox. It certainly wouldn't. That's my understanding. But I've talked to my doctor, so that's why I know. You need to talk to your doctor, because I'm not a medical practitioner and I know nothing about medicine. Anyway. But let's put it like this. It's not a conversation around the dinner table in my house of like, what should we do about monkeypox? What should we do about monkeypox? I don't know. And it's just not a common conversation we have. Maybe we should be having it. I don't know. Anyway, I think it's time for me to start landing my plane. Tomorrow I'm going to be on Layback Law. I don't expect to be streaming on Saturday night. I do expect to be streaming on Sunday night. I will be on Layback Law. If you're interested in joining Fantasy Football League, I'm urging you, go over to goodlogic.locals.com. It's a $100 entry fee, and you'll find the link over there for Fantasy Football League. I'm looking to have up to 11 additional participants join me in a Fantasy Football League, which will probably have our draft fallout sometime in, if not Labor Day, then Sunday. Probably Sunday of Labor Day. That's usually when I do most of my drafting. So that's coming up fast, apparently. It's coming along soon. Anything else? Are we good? Did I cover everything? All right. There we go. And thank you all for joining me. I'll catch you tomorrow on Layback Law. Till then, take care of yourselves. Stay away from that friggin' lab meat. It's not even like food. It's just like, what is it? I still don't know. I refuse to look up what lab meat is. I just know you and humans are not supposed to be eating that. So if you're a human, which I assume you are, in that case, I value you and recognize your value, and I tell you, stay away from friggin' lab meat. Do not eat the bugs. Don't do it. Don't eat the bugs. Have a good night, my friends, and as always, Godspeed.